Washington has a busy week ahead with the first of the fiscal 2018 spending bills headed for a markup and a parade of administration officials headed to Capitol Hill to defend President Trump's proposed budget cuts. Joining us now is David Stockman, former director of the Office of Management and Budget under President Ronald Reagan. Great to have you with us here in New York. You brought a chart along with you. Yes. I always appreciate that when a guest does that. Let's put it up here. You're looking at nominal GDP, I gather here.
Right.
The CBO projection compared to President Trump's projection compared to what? Explain why this chart is significant to you.
Well, I commend them for trying to get to a balanced budget by 2027. It'd be the first one in 27 years. But the way they get there is out of this world, and partly because of a economic forecast that is rosy scenario on steroids. What counts for budgets in the long run is nominal GDP and wages. That's what we tax. If you try to send in your taxes based on inflation-adjusted income, you'll probably end up being a guest in Uncle Sam's hospitality suite. So if we look at nominal income, and that's what the chart is all about, and we project for the next 10 years exactly what we've had for the last 10 years, we end up with about $25 trillion in nominal income to tax by 2025. If we look at CBO, that's $28 trillion, but if we look at what the White House is forecasting, it's $31.5 trillion. In other words, they're imagining that somehow with their mix of policy, we can get $5 trillion a year more of GDP by the 10th year than if we simply have a replay of the last 10 years. Now, in the last 10 years, we've had massive stimulus, haven't we?
Yeah.
The budget deficit, the national debt went from $6 trillion to $20 trillion. The balance sheet of the Fed went from about $700 billion to $4.5 trillion. Going forward, the Fed has said we're done. We're shrinking the balance sheet. We got to normalize interest rates. And there's no way that Congress is going to vote for massive increases in the federal debt. So how can you have a growth rate of nominal GDP, which is 70% higher than what we had in the last 10 years with all the stimulus? That's my point. So they don't get to a balanced budget. They get to massive red ink, and that's where the whole thing is going to break down.
What does that say to you about the conversation about a budget in Washington today? We had Larry Summers calling the economic projections ludicrously optimistic, I think. What does it say to you about the process? As you mentioned, there were those who momentarily cheered the fact that there was a 10-year target here. But then you heard from both Republicans and Democrats saying this is something that is just unpalatable to them completely.
Well, I think it's fantasy land. They have been basically kicking the can so long that the magnitude of the problem is almost insuperable. And so they just imagine options. They imagine policy mixes that have no chance in the world of happening. Not only does this budget project all this GDP, which can't happen, it also says we're going to have what they laid out is a $7.5 trillion gross tax cut over 10 years. The 15% corporate rate, 15% on the pass-through, doubling the standard deduction and all the rest of it. And yet they say they're going to pay for it with 100% offsets, so there's no revenue loss.
This is the double count.
This is the double count. Now, how are you? Sure, I'm all for a broader base, lower rates. That's what Reagan did in '86. But how are you going to come up with $7.5 trillion of offsets when you have the K Street lobbies lined up from one end of the, one end of the swamp to the other, and the big dollars are really beyond reach? The biggest loophole you could close is the health exclusion. That's $200 billion a year. The House Republicans chickened out on that during the Obamacare repeal. The next biggest one is $180 billion, which is pensions and IRAs. Do you think they're going to take pensions and IRAs away? The third biggest one is, capital gains and dividends treated on a preferential basis. When you put all the lobbies, the Wall Street lobbies and all the rest of them, on the case, they're not going to repeal that either. So my point is, they pretend they have a tax cut that they haven't paid for that produces GDP that's out of this world beyond what's feasible. And they end up with budget numbers that are so unrealistic, such complete fantasy, that they might as well not even bother. Then they pretend you can raise defense, you can raise veterans, you can have $1 trillion infrastructure program, you can ring fence Social Security and Medicare, which is $1.8 trillion. Don't cut them a dime, and essentially take $500 billion of a $4 trillion budget and cut the hell out of that little corner and leave all the rest to either grow or the same. and think it adds up to anything. It doesn't.
Very quickly here, David, we had Mick Mulvaney coming out saying he thinks the days of the CBO's relevance are limited, that its relevance in Washington is over with. What role does it play? Do you sympathize with him when you think that it's no longer as necessary?
No, I think CBO's totally necessary. In fact, but I'm on the other side.
Yeah.
I think they're too optimistic. If you, we had my chart before, but even CBO projects growth of nominal GDP and wages over the next 10 years that are far beyond what we've had, and in the face of a world economy. Now, if you think that China's going to just sail off into the sunset for the next 10 years without a hiccup, more power to you. If you think the socialist economies of Europe aren't in trouble, more power to you. But if you take a realistic look at the world economy and you look at what the Fed is doing here, and what we've had in the last 10 years, there's no way that any of this is going to materialize. So they're in fantasy land down there, and they're going to end up in the ditch. And here's the important point. Within 70 days, when the debt ceiling kicks in, it's already in place, and they run out of cash, which is draining very rapidly. They're down to less than $150 billion. And the point that I think investors are totally ignoring is there will not be a debt ceiling increase. There will be a crisis. I think there will be a shutdown in August or September. There will be the danger that they actually have to prorate revenue to the prorate spending to the incoming revenue. It will be such a shock to the system that what we saw Friday, that little hiccup with the fangs, will be nothing compared to the fiscal fang that hits in August.
In the near future. David, thank you very much, as always. That's David Stockman, former director of the Office of Management and Budget under President Ronald Reagan, joining me here in New York. And still